Welcome to Unlock 360, the podcast for champions of public education. Here we explore the connection between leadership, teaching, and learning, and reveal the keys to getting better results for all students. Each episode highlights a change maker who's turning vision into action and creating schools where both educators and students thrive. Welcome back, everyone. Today we have another wonderful guest from the great state of Michigan. Assistant Superintendent Jaym Abraham of Harper Creek Community Schools. Welcome, Jaym.
Well, thank you, Wendy. I'm very excited to speak with you today and talk education.
Yes, good stuff. And will you just start us off with a brief introduction of yourself?
Sure. I'm pretty much born and raised in West Michigan. I started my career as a high school teacher in 2002. Was history, PE, coach for football, basketball. I think every committee you could put me on, I was in for 10 years. In 2012, I went back to my hometown and was an assistant principal there at a middle school for 3 years, then an elementary principal in my hometown, not the elementary that I went to, but another one, of course. It was a smaller school. Was there for 3 years, 7 years as a middle school principal in a suburb just outside of Grand Rapids, which is a bigger school or a bigger, I think Grand Rapids is the second largest city in Michigan, second, of course, to Detroit, but a really growing area. I was there for 7 years, and then just recently, the past 8 months, I've been promoted to another school just a little bit further south, just south of Battle Creek, Harper Creek Community Schools, as the Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum, Instruction, and Assessment.
Awesome. Yes. And Jaym, I understand that you all serve about 2,800 students across 5 campuses.
Yes, we do. We do. Pretty diverse for us as well. And we're really working on becoming a team and having a common vision of where we're going. So very excited about it. I feel very happy and blessed to be at Harper Creek. Love the staff and love the school board and superintendent, and feel very excited about this coming school year.
That's so cool. And I'm guessing too that, with the timeline that you just shared, you're getting to start your first full year in the seat.
Very much so. And it's funny that you mentioned that. I think as a building principal, I would always get frustrated in September-ish because the people that are now in my role would end up taking, a few days off in September. And I can tell you that July and August have been the busiest time of my entire life of just getting things prepared for the school year. So the shoes on the other foot, I totally understand that why my predecessors would take a few days off in September for sure.
Yeah, it does. It makes sense. Okay, good. Well, will you tell us, so what was it like when you stepped into the role and started to get to know Harper Creek?
Well, there was the superintendent here, Rob Ridgway, did a really nice job of transitioning me for 2 to 3 weeks with my predecessor. So I got to learn a little bit through her of how she did things and the major initiatives that were going on at Harper Creek. So that was nice. But soon thereafter, as we've all experienced in education, soon you get the keys, you get the keys to your classroom, and you're thinking, oh my goodness, what am I supposed to do next? So very much that's what it felt like in some ways. I mean, yes, there's a support net that was put around me and underneath me to help me through the processes, but it's really learning on your own, really kind of working through the strategic plan, using your resources to make sure that you're moving forward. And as we all know, education is a relationship business. I mean, we are working with people. Our students, of course, are people. That's produces our so-called outcome. But everything in between is people, people, people. So it has been overwhelming at times, extremely gratifying, and a brand new learning curve, which something that I'm always kind of excited to take on another challenge and learn more. So far, it's been wonderful. I will say, last year I felt like I was living through sub-plans because it wasn't really my professional development plan. This year it's really kind of exciting and with anxiety of these are no longer sub-plans. They're the plans that, my team and myself have created to go into this school year. So it's, I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, well, and there's no such thing as a perfect plan. So I'm sure it's going to be great. You will learn a lot, and so will the staff. Tell us about that. Tell us about your, where you all are heading in terms of professional learning and development.
I've always tried to keep it rather simple. I really believe that educators we like to create something that I think I've called and others have called it too. Like the teachers soon fall in initiative fatigue. It's one
Yes.
thing after another, which is very easy to fall into. I mean, and it's something that, as a building principal and as something that I have to struggle with in this position of the state mandates that needs to move on for professional development, the things that we need to do internally, the pressures from inside forces and outside forces to move forward with. For me, it's usually been I try to keep things focused around two major initiatives. It's going to be PBIS, right? How are we going to teach our students what we expect of them? How are we going to reward them for their positive behavior that they produce in our classrooms, in our school communities? And the other is a PLC or a PLT process of how are we going to work together for the betterment of us as educators and our students. So really, in every place I've been as a building principal, and also in the role that I am, is really how can we come together and how can we create positive teams and learn from one another. So that's been a lot of the processes and things that I've been working on so far this school year.
Yes, and that is the most powerful, right? That job embedded professional learning and developing collective efficacy and expertise as a team of teachers, as a team of leaders. That's what gets the best results. There's already so much knowledge sitting right there in your system, and just creating time and space and structures for folks to work together and learn together is very powerful.
If I could add on to that, which another thing that's an unintended consequence, but works wonderfully, is coming up here in the next few weeks. One of our professional development days are all teacher driven for us. One over the beginning of our dyslexia bill that went through, just how the brain works and how the brain learns to read. And the other is about artificial intelligence and, to get our teachers prepared so they can kind of understand what many of our students probably already know and are playing with.
Yeah.
And using. But that's all teacher driven. And I'm really excited. And again, that unintended consequence is our other teachers will ask the teachers on the panel about it. And it creates an internal loop of communication. We're no longer looking outside the organization for our answers. We start to look inside the organization for our answers. And like you said before, it's very powerful when we start to do that. We really harness the power and the knowledge of the people in the room. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, and one of the challenges that districts often face is really having time built in the schedule for teams of teachers to collaborate. What is that structure like for all of you?
Well, be careful. Schedules are probably one of my love languages, so I can
Oh,
I
okay.
can go for a little bit on this. We did. That was one of the initiatives that we've done at every step of my administrative journey. So as an assistant principal, an elementary principal, middle school principal, and in this, it's we can't really expect our teachers to do the work unless we give them the time to do the work.
Right.
So we talk about tiers of intervention that we have, quality tier 1 intervention, tier 2 intervention, where we meet the needs of our students that may need a little help or may need to be pushed. And then, of course, tier 3 is really doing our very best to close the gaps. Well, those have to be built into the system. I've always been very passionate that that's not going to be something that you can just tell a classroom teacher and say, yep, I need you to do tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. You do it in your classroom. I feel like you can say that, but I had an old veteran tell me way back when I started teaching 2003 or 4 that, yep, and then those teachers go back to their classrooms, they shut the doors, and they say, this too shall pass. So if it's built into, if you reverse that and say it's not just going to be expected in the classroom, but it's going to be the language in which the school, and in my case in this role, how the district speaks, all of a sudden big things become very possible. So we have a tier, obviously tier 1, 2, and 3 in our elementaries. For ELA happens in the morning. So if you're picturing, 90 minutes of ELA time, we'll push some parapros in. The parapros will be teaching the students that show proficiency, and our grade level teachers will divide up our students in a grade level that are not at grade level yet, are not showing signs of proficiency. And then our tier 3 beyond that will get some help from from our instructional coaches. And that same schedule happens in the afternoon for mathematics as well. So we built it in. We built in early release times on Wednesdays. That actually wasn't built in. That was done on the schedule before me, but we will use those early release Wednesdays to make sure we're really going through our data and meeting the needs of our students. And then the schedule at the middle school and secondary levels become much more complex, but it's really the same idea of you have to build your tier 2 time in. For me, a steadfast rule was you can't hand off tier 2. So those students you can't just hand off to an interventionist. It has to be a member of the department teaching those classes. Mm-hmm. So if you're picturing a secondary English teacher that has 5 out of 6 classes, one of those 6 classes would be teaching an intervention tier 2 class. So making sure that we meet the needs of those students, and again, making sure that our team are talking about all of our kids, not just those kids that go over there. No, they're really all of our kids. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I can really talk about schedules. I have a passion for schedules. I think schedules really produce the message. It speaks a language to your staff of what you value. Yeah. So if you value PLC and teaming, your schedule should talk about, and you should be able to see what teaming and where it takes place within the schedule. If your schedule values how you're going to meet the needs of all of your students through tier 2 time, it should be easily found within your schedule. Mm-hmm. So again, I really believe that schedule speaks the language of the vision of the building and the district.
It's really tough to do the work without the structures in place. Yes. And I'm just to clarify then, so every Wednesday is an early release day. Is that across the district?
It is. Yep. I mean, for the most part, I think we have 2 or 3 Wednesdays that are not, but that's just kind of the way that the schedule fell off. But for the most part, it's every single Wednesday. Our teachers have an hour to come together in teams and do that work. This year will be, of course, and me being in the new, it'll be much more directed. Okay. I mean, the time was built in. The time was built in to meet, but the time wasn't built in of when we're going to be doing the interventions. That we really worked on this year in the last 8-9 months of really creating that schedule for our students. So, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Good. And then I am also wondering about the professional learning community as like across a school site. So not just within the teams of teachers, but are there school site leadership teams, structures, or taking it even broader, a district leadership team structure to help folks become a professional learning community?
There is, honestly, and that was something that I would just say I kind of lucked. It was already in place at Harper Creek. So again, there was some vision and some thought process done before I got here. So yes, we have instructional coach, a PBIS coach, and an MTSS coach at all of our elementaries, which nice. For those elementary principals out there, that's really well staffed.
Yes.
Yeah, you're shaking your head. It's very well staffed in that case. Same, we have 2 instructional coaches at the middle school level, along with 2 counselors and MTSS. I mean, so we're well staffed there. Our high school, it's just harder to do interventions at the high school. So we're really kind of working on that schedule, that system as well. And trust me, that's in my mind on my commute to work and home of how do we really come around all of that at the high school. To help with the district communication that you're talking about, before me, they started a district curriculum council at Harper Creek. So I'm sure you can easily understand there'll be 1 kindergarten teacher throughout the district, 1 first grade teacher throughout the district, all the way up through elementaries, and then department heads at the secondary level, which would include, of course, elementary and special and extracurricular people as well. So when they all get together, we're probably somewhere around 25 to 30 members together in a room talking about vision and direction and how we're going to implement things, which again was all established before I got here. So that has been very helpful to kind of move things from just a thought into an active vision. So
yeah, well, and I can imagine that it helps to, you're giving them a voice and representing their colleagues and in the decisions that are being made, which builds that commitment and that community. So it's very powerful.
Yeah, I really like that you said voice. If you follow any of my career, I've had a lot of turnaround success. And really that turnaround success has been with getting my teachers and the people I work with in a room and coming up with our common message. And once that we've created that common message and vision, that's the direction that we're going. But really, it's like you said, the voice of really empowering your educators to do the work that they've been trained to do, that they have a passion to do. It's not a program. It's not, I don't know, hard leadership where it's just going to be this way. It's really bringing people together. And with that being said, I mean, like, I've had plenty of turnover success in my career by simply bringing people together.
Will you give us an example or two of some of the turnaround success that you've experienced? Many of our audience, or those tuning in, they are also educational leaders, and they may be trying to make some change happen somewhere. So will you share an example or two of how that's unfolded for you?
Yep. I have two in my head, but if Wendy, if I start talking too much Michigan education lingo, stop me so I can speak universal.
Okay.
So my first principalship, where I became the head principal, was at an elementary school in Allegan. It was Pine Trails Elementary. When I took on that leadership role, well, I was excited, nervous, as you can imagine, all of the things that go along with running a school. But that school was 73% free and reduced, and it had shown pretty much a history of maintaining somewhere around 11 to 12% proficiency on our state testing. Well, obviously, we needed to do some things to improve the outcomes of our students. So in our first few months together, so I think I received that position in August, and school starts the first week of September in Michigan for the most part. The leadership team and myself got together and created a schedule where we could meet the needs of Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3 for ELA and math, and the AM and PM, much like we're doing in Harper Creek now. Talked about how we're going to hold each other accountable, and also talked about that your income isn't an indication of how intelligent our students are. Mm-hmm. Some real probably learning, but difficult conversations. A lot of our staff had a lot of apathy for our students. Well, you don't know that because our students are coming from such a difficult place. All of that is true. But how do we raise the bar for our students so they could, hopefully potentially have a fantastic life, and how can we move them forward with that? A lot of hard work, a lot of great teamwork, phenomenal teachers and people that just poured their heart into it. But by the end of that school year, we were 57% proficient on state testing.
Wow.
The exact same staff. The only person that was new in that building was me. So it was the exact same staff. No really new initiatives other than teaming and scheduling and working together to solve our problems. And then the next 2 years, we improved again and again at Pine Trails. So that first year, we became, the state of Michigan gives model reward schools status for two reasons. One is beating the odds, and that's being in the top 5% of most improved.
Okay.
So we became a beating the odds school.
That's amazing.
Top 5% of turnaround. And we did. We still improved every year, which to me was just as important, if not more important, that it wasn't a flash in the pan. It was who we became. It was exactly who we were. So that was fantastic. And then at my middle school that I was a principal of, Duncan Lake, just outside of Caledonia, that'd be very much the opposite sort of school. So when I got to Duncan Lake, I think that population was 12% free and reduced. So a pretty wealthy suburb school. So wealthy that there wasn't a whole lot of teaming that really had to take place in years past, because our students came ready to learn and usually did fairly well. But we were underperforming compared to where we should have been performing.
Right.
And then, of course, that all falls through of COVID times. So for us in Caledonia during that time, we had brand new contract that changed teachers' planning periods. Our school decided to change. Instead of having two middle schools at that point, we're going to have a 5-6 building and a 7-8 building. Mm-hmm. So Duncan Lake was a 7-8 building, which meant I lost 5 or 6 teachers and got 11 new teachers, veteran teachers, many that just had to move around through the district. So brand new schedule, brand new systems, everything had changed because of the contract. And if I could mention, just to add another thing on, we were also going through $6 million worth of renovations at our school. So it was a lot.
Yeah.
That year we moved up and was the first time we became a reward school for being in the top 5% of all middle schools in the state of Michigan. And we stayed there for the next 3 or 4 years, or we stayed there until I left. And I don't know exactly where they ended at the end of this school year. I'm sure I'll find out in the next couple months. But really, the story behind all of that is, again, what I talked about before of how do we bring people together, talk about what good teaching is, how do we hold each other accountable, how do we build a schedule that helps meet all of those needs, and how do we grow and how do we learn from one another? So, yeah.
Any tips for leading that culture change? I would call it culture change. If you're stepping into a role and there really aren't high performing teams in place, any tips for how to go about developing that?
Well, yeah, I guess when it comes to just starting the building leadership team, for me, the building leadership team were the strongest personalities and the strongest leaders in the entire building. I've never believed in having a leadership team filled with followers, so to speak. I want people in there that help me grow as well, and I need ideas. So I would say let's just say I would talk to a group that you're talking about that may be underperforming and say, hey, we're going to meet next Wednesday over where your course proficiency is. Right now, your course proficiency, we're only looking at about 70% of our students are course proficient. So we need to talk about that. Now, before I get in there, I want you to know that I'm going to have a plan of how we're going to improve this. And then I would say, I really hope you have a plan that's better than mine, because we're going to have something and we're going to move in a direction because we're going to have to meet the needs of our 30% of our students.
Right.
But I'm really hoping all of you together can come up with a better plan than me. You're the ones on the streets that are dealing with our students. And that just helped them, because no matter what, I would say we're going to do something. And to this day, I still always have a plan going in. And I would say probably, in high functioning teams, we're probably only using my plan 30% of the time. But there will be a plan of movement as we move out. So I guess I would say to you, I think that it's something to do with the fact that we are going to take actionable steps to improve. And then giving people the room to come up with the plans and then empowering them to move forward with it has been key to how we've done things.
And speaking to that, you've mentioned a couple of times like accountability piece and holding one another accountable. And it's interesting because, accountability can be thought of in educational systems as, a dirty word, but it's actually a beautiful thing when adults hold one another accountable. And I think the reason sometimes it's, maybe thought of negatively is that people automatically think about external accountability. But what I'm hearing you speak to is internal accountability. And I'm curious how you have gone about developing that amongst your team. It's one thing to have a plan and another thing to execute it, right? And so how have your teams been able to hold one another accountable to executing your plan?
Yeah, well, by the way, I feel like you verbalized it perfectly in the fact of, because I honestly believed, and when I first started as a teacher, I thought state test scores or the data was scary, and I thought it was an indictment instead of course setting. And can I say, if data is done correctly, it's course setting, and it should be extremely empowering. And really, it changes from, I can't believe my students didn't get to this level. It's much more of, look at the growth that they did. Look at all the work that I poured in and look at what comes out of it. And it's, in my experience, has been, of course, with a lot of successes, but has been extremely empowering. And the teachers that I've worked with, historically, have been asking me for the data before I actually have it, or they're creating their own because they're making actionable steps on it. And I think that has a lot to do with, if you do it correctly, it is empowering. It really shows you the workload that you're putting in and the benefit that you get out of that. So that's been fantastic. So help me a little bit on how I can answer the question of how did I make it actionable? I would say, again, I think you have to have a schedule that allows for it.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
elementary and also secondary, there has to be common planning time. So elementary, common planning time for your grade level teachers to meet and discuss. There has to be time built into the system of how the tier two and tier three interventions are going to take. So a tagline that I say often is improvement starts when reflection becomes unavoidable.
Mm.
So in order for it to be unavoidable, it has to be built into the schedule. Um, I have never been one that, as a building principal, have ever driven deeply into common formative assessments. Like I believe in common formative assessments, and I know my departments need to be doing them. But what I mean driven hard into it is that's not data that I am going through all of the time. I've really let my departments kind of work on that data and create their plan,
Hmm.
and then move forward and then reward the departments that are just crushing it and saying, please share how you're doing this, share how you're collecting your data, share how you're moving your groups around during our intervention time. And then we've grown from that. So trying not to make it scary and trying to much more make it like how we come together and
Hmm.
how we learn from one another and how we help our students.
Well, and one of the things that I'm hearing you say that you may not have actually said in this way is you're coming back to it. You're not just having a plan, talking about it, creating a plan, or having the team create a plan and then go do it and just hoping it gets done. But like those structures and the scheduling and all of that, coming back to it and checking in on it and revisiting it over and over and over again, I think um, so simple, but also something that frequently gets lost.
Yeah, and just thank you for saying that. But I think I started out with there are two major initiatives that we've really tried to focus on in any school that I've ever been a part of: PBIS, so our behavior, and then also how we're going to team. And yeah, I mean, keep it simple.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, shed some light, if you will, on Harper Creek Community Schools. You know what's what's great about it? What do you love about it there?
Um, wow, I wasn't expecting that question. I will say to you, it has been a wonderful move for me. So again, as a building principal, I was a building principal for 13 and a half years. So I had done that, right? I had been a building principal and had great successes in it and loved my teams that I've worked with. And to this day, really miss a lot of the teachers and educators and secretaries and everyone that I've worked with. From the moment I got at Harper Creek, they allowed me to be me. And I really think that's
That's
important
awesome.
for
Yeah.
every place. I mean, even when I was a principal, when I'd hire people, here, I'm going to steal this a little bit from Nick Saban. It's like, we hired you to be the best version of you. You be the best version of you. We'll let you know if you need a little help along the way, but we're hiring you to be the best version of you. That's something that Harper Creek has allowed me to do. I don't feel like I need to be anything other than the best version of me. That has been fantastic. It's a really, it's Harper Creek would be much more like my hometown, kind of a blue collar type school district. That your word is everything. So working with those teams and working with the school board, that's been it's been great. It's just a throwback back to kind of much more like in the community I was raised in. The superintendent here has done a wonderful job, and I think he's been the superintendent 11, 12 years. There's no
Okay.
bitterness at all between our teachers union and our in central office. They've really worked together, and there's some built trust. That is a wonderful setting to come into,
Yes.
where yes, it's still a part of me to build some trust, but I'm not repairing damages that have been done in the past because that trust has been built. So that's been fantastic. And we talked about like DCC, our District Curriculum Council, which has been established. Our teams, our schools are really well staffed to, to move ahead with our tiers of intervention. So honestly, it's been wonderful. It's filled my bucket of a lot more learning and growing in the profession of education. But it's a wonderful place to be.
Yeah. And it seems like just the culture that you're describing, and it just sounds wonderful. Where could someone go if they want to learn more, if they're looking for a new place to call home as a teacher or administrator?
Yeah, the easiest place to learn about Harper Creek, as I did just 8 months ago, would be Google. I mean, just jump on and look at Harper Creek Community Schools. We're a suburb school of Battle Creek. Most people know Battle Creek because of Kellogg's and Post. That's their headquarters. So we're just a suburb, just a little south of Battle Creek in Southwest Michigan. And we're still working through things at Harper Creek, but again, really excited to not be working on sub plans and creating and moving forward this next school year. So excited to, what we're going to do at Harper Creek.
Yeah, it sounds really cool, and I would be excited too. James, thank you so much for being on our show today. Before we wrap up, I want to give you an opportunity to give a special shout out or acknowledgement to someone who has had a positive impact on your life as an educator or an educational leader.
All right, Wendy, I know that you want me to keep it to one person. I don't think I'm going to do that. So I'm going to go rapid fire on you. I'm sorry.
No, I'm fine. I'm fine with you breaking the rules. Yeah.
Yep. The person that made me want to be a teacher was a former high school teacher, Walt Cackley. He just believed in me and wouldn't let me fail. So he set me on my path, which was fantastic. As a first year of my 10-year teaching career, the principal there, Tom Cutler, believed in me as well and pushed me into a leadership role. So that was empowering, to say the least. Let's see, later in my principal career, it would be a superintendent, Dr. Diedrich Martin, that really pushed me. He's a superintendent just down the road now. We're not in the same district, but he was my superintendent for 5 years. Really just, I think, brought my thinking to the next level of, what we could do as a team. And again, believed in me, right? It's the theme of constantly believing in the person that you're working with. Education is walking beside people, and I've had a lot of people that have walked beside me and helped me through. I've worked with wonderful counselors. I can think of like Melissa Grimes, who really kind of taught me as a principal how to work through a counseling team and how to make sure I'm helping students in that direction. And of course, I have a wonderful wife, Taryn, and 2 wonderful daughters that I wouldn't be here without their work as well. So it's just, we talked before this started about, it's really hard to mention one name because there's hundreds and hundreds of names that helped along the way. So I feel very lucky to have a huge team around me.
Yes, indeed. Well, thank you. I liked the rapid fire. That was great.
Okay.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Good. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's a wrap, everyone. Until next time. Thank you for joining us on Unlock 360. If this conversation sparked new thinking, share it with a colleague and keep the dialogue going in your school district. Public education is complex work, and progress happens when leadership and teaching move together. I'm Wendy York Davoud. Until next time, keep building the systems that unlock what's possible, because strong leadership drives deeper learning.